follows it. But what's riding them, I'm convinced, is these false prophets that Jesus was speaking about. And he's going to ride them into the middle of the congregations. This is who's riding these horses. They're false prophets. They're not even real prophets. They're doing it for gain, and they come in to catch you with their words. They come in conquering and to conquer, and the very first false prophet that will come along is coming along with a corona and a poison dart. And he said it's for greedy gain. They're extortioners, he said. Oh, come on now, I'm just all alone in here. And they're extortioners, he said, and they come in among the congregations, and the first one that's coming is riding a dead white horse with a corona and a poison dart, and he's coming in to catch up the people in his words. Prophesying only for greedy gain. And he said, once this happens, then another horse follows it. And he said, this horse that follows it, he said, he said, and there went out another horse, and it was red. But it never says that this other horse, it never says the other horse, it never says who was riding it. It just said power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Who will kill one another? Them. In other words, this horse is tied to the corona and the dart. Whatever follows the corona and the dart will cause people to rise up and kill one another. Whatever happens with this corona and this dart is tied to that next move. And they begin to kill one another. Then it says, and then there was a third horse, and he says, a measure of wheat for a penny. It was a black horse. He that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. So after they begin to turn on one another, there's coming a great famine and shortages. There's not enough in the grocery stores. They limit you to 2 cans. You can only buy or sell just so much. He says it's a black horse. The prophet riding that horse, we saw it rise up. It was called Black Lives Matter. They didn't care about black lives. These were Marxist, self-proclaimed communists. Said themselves, we are Marxist and community organizers. And when Joe Biden became this fraudulent thing that he became, you know what the first thing they said was? Joe Biden and the Democratic Party owes us. It was amazing how all riots stopped just as soon as that was done. And shortages followed it all. And then the fourth horse comes along, and it's a pale horse. The word pale is not white. It's green. Actually, it's yellowish green. It speaks of Islam. Islam. And it actually, if you want to know, it speaks of Christianity mingling with it into Chrislam. Already it has begun. So these are the spirits that's riding right now, and these are the false prophets that everybody seems to want to point fingers at pastors in churches and say they're wolves in sheep's clothing, wolves in sheep's clothing. No, the wolf in sheep's clothing is out there. You have to watch for that. For here they come. Hear them? The rider, the first false prophet. You must. This corona, this poison dart. Let me tell you something, my brother and sister. If for no other reason on God's earth that ought to appall you, is that somebody looks at you and says, you must take this. No, hell no, I don't have to. It should be in the voice of freedom, never says you have to. And it ought to start registering on you when they say, I'll pay you this, I'll pay you that. You can get paid this much money. You can do that. What do you mean, pay me? What is so important about that jab that you would be willing to pay me? Are you listening to me? This is the false prophets Jesus was speaking of, and not pastors that you've misjudged. Now, you see how this is already trying to happen. This is the spirit of these four horses that's already at work. Is it not? But these are not even real prophets. They're false prophets. Real prophets are saying the opposite. Now, I want you to look at something, because I want to give some clarity on something, and then we're going to do something that's just really wild here. Some of you still are trying to get over hell no. See, there's a law of first mention in the scripture. Whenever you see it happen first, then that's the way it works. Now, when God created man, he made the image of the man in the dirt before the man ever arrived. Yes, he did. So there was an image in the dirt of what was coming. The body of the man was the image and foretold to the earth, and was actually a prophecy in the dirt, so that the dirt would know who it was looking for when it came. So it was a prophecy, and there's always the event. If it has to do anything with a man, God promised you at that point that from now on there would always be an image in the dirt before the event ever gets there. For instance, go over to Revelation 18. I want to show you something in Revelation 18. We're going somewhere. Y'all with me, right? Okay. Now watch this. I remember when, just like some of you do, 2001, September 11th. And when all of that happened, I was like everybody else, except I had this terrible heaviness I couldn't get off of me weeks before that event. And then I came in, I just got up. I've never done this before. Got up on the couch, feet and all. And I looked at Robin, looked at me, and I said, I don't know what's wrong. It's too heavy. Something is terribly wrong. Well, that's what it was. And then 2 nights, I think it was, before it took place, I was dreaming, and I would dream of the Empire State Building and planes flying around the Empire and people falling off. People hanging on something. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get this out of my thinking. And when I would think of New York, of course, I thought of the Empire State Building, and so that's the way it registered with me. And then it happened. Well, after it happened, then we saw in an hour it took place. And we saw the first plane, then we saw the second plane hit. And then I remember when Mayor Giuliani came out and addressed the people. Y'all remember that? And it was on a split screen. Actually, it was 4 screens on the television. It showed one view here of the towers burning, one over here of him. There was one of something, and then one with the sailors on barges with cameras looking at it from offshore. And I'm sitting there and just like everybody else, just shocked at all this. And then all of a sudden, Mayor Giuliani says this. He says, "Oh, New York, New York, what city's like this city?" And I came out of my office because I knew that statement. It's right here in Revelation 18. Babylon the great is fallen, is fallen. It says, what city is like unto this great city? And he quoted that. Whether he knew it or not, he quoted that. Now I want you to listen to this. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Now listen to this. We come on down here, and it says this. Verse 9, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament her for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore, the merchandise of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, fine wood, all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beast and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and the souls of men. He's looking. I guess actually New Year's now. But since it is, you need to know where you are. Now, you say, why would you teach it tonight? Why would you go to all the trouble to recap everything and bring us up to this thing? It's because, see, the Rosh Hashanah, Rosh, the head of the year. So Rosh Hashanah is actually God's timetable of when the new year begins. Right? Okay, so this is September the what? 7th? All right, it's 2022, 5782 in Israel. It is the new year. But it won't become the new year here till January the 1st. So that's about 3 months and so many days until it turns new year. So right now you're 3 months and so many days in the future. You're already in the future, so that you will have 3 months and so many days to declare what you want to come before January gets here, so that you can start speaking it now, and you speak it from your future where there is no sin. And you're speaking from a place, God gave nations a place of purity if they would just start talking righteousness for the next 3 months or so. And every year it's just that way, so that you can walk over into January 1 and you step into it. You've already been in 2022 for months now, and all you're going to do now is recognize the rest of the year as you walk through it. You already know what's coming for you. Does that make sense to you? That is a New Year's Eve message preached from a prophet's view. So you're in the yeah, that's right. So you're in the future now, right now. Oh yeah, the rest of the world won't walk into 2022 until January. but we as God's people are already there. And so you're about to learn what's going on and what we're going to do in this 3-month period. Hallelujah. Now, and yeah, I will, Lord. In 2012, I was standing right up there in that sound booth, and I heard this word from the Lord. Hit me hard. I just turned all around in a circle and landed like this on my notebook. And the Lord said, write it down. Write this down. So I started writing. He said, the time of Moses has begun. The time of coming out has begun. He said, a sequence of things in the world has begun, and a sequence of things in the church for the time of coming out has begun. I didn't say anything for a couple weeks. He said the time of Moses had started. Well, after a couple weeks, the longest river in China turned blood red. Lake Irma turned blood red. The longest river in Beirut turned blood red. A fiery pillar was caught by the news cameras going across the Australian desert. A swarm of locusts hit Cairo, Egypt, at their marketplace right before Passover. A snake showed up swallowing another snake on world news. It was on. The time of Moses had started. 2013 came along. 2013, 2 + 1 + 3. It's 6. The year of the 6. What happened that year? Thanksgiving and Hanukkah fell on the same day. What else happened that year? A meteor, a comet went over called Ison. And when this comet went over, it was exactly 666 years from the time the first comet, I think, called Kirsch, went over the earth and the Black Death hit the earth. 666 years later was 2013 when it came over, the very day. During that time, suddenly ISIS arose. The militant group ISIS, wearing 666 on their headbands and 666 on their armbands, and they were cutting the heads off of Christians and Jews. The year of the 6 had started. And on it went. It just kept coming, one prophetic thing after another. And then 2019 hit. 2016 came first, and I heard the Lord say, I was standing about right here on the stage, maybe right in here, and in 2016, I heard the Lord say, he said, there's a harvest of sickness coming to the earth. He said, it's coming after the children of the wicked one. And then in 2019, April the 30th, I was standing here and looked at Robin and I said, there's coming a plague. It's going to be a plague. It'll be international. And when it comes, the unscrupulous men will take advantage of this. We need to pray. And it came. As soon as everything started shutting down, the Lord told me, he said, you're headed for a Red Sea time. And I'm looking at all of this. I'm watching this. And suddenly the St. Mary's River ran blood red. Other big bodies of water turned into blood. There was so many locusts swarming around Africa that the swarms were big as small nations. Another snake showed up hanging on and wrapped around another snake, eating it. Made world news. He said, you're still in the time of Moses. We had every plague happening. Even the bubonic plague showed up. Everything was happening. Everything was moving. Everything was going. But we didn't have a death angel until the coronavirus came. And then suddenly people were locked behind doors. They were locked behind the doors and they hung red ribbons on their doors. It's the time of the second Passover. And then while everybody was shut in, they didn't have nothing else to do, so social media started a brilliant game called Show Me Your Pictures of Your Firstborn. So now the firstborn was in the news. The ribbons were on the door. Water was turning to blood, snakes swallowing snakes, and now a death angel going by every door. All of this was happening. So you're in this time, this timeline. So we approach the Red Sea. See, God had defeated every god in Egypt. And there was one God he was after. It was Baal. He wanted Baal. Suddenly, arches of Baal started showing up in England, Italy, New York. They're bringing out 3D printed pictures, replicas of the Arch of Baal where they marched the babies through to kill them. And they printed 1,000 of these. And so God is calling out Baal. And so we get to the Red Sea. And I'm in Washington, D.C. on the 6th of January. And I stretched that rod right over there against the wall. I stretched it out over the reflecting pool and told the Red Sea to part at the order of the Lord. It went crazy that day. Everything just broke out and went crazy. And the Red Sea, the Republican Party divided. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And we were at a Red Sea time. Ready. It will close. I hope you're ready for this. Now I'm going to show you something. And I want you to watch this close. This would be, Steve Schultz would really like this on an intelligence briefing, what I'm about to say. So if Steve's watching, I want you to go to the book of Psalms. And I want to show you something tonight where we are. And there's so many timelines I could tell you. So many timelines I could say. But you know the one about the towers. You know the one about McCain and Hillary and Bill Clinton. You know the one about the Passover and the Red Sea time and all that. Now you see these timelines. I want to show you something right here. And I know it seems like I've skipped around maybe, but just stay with me. Now, the creation of man in the Jewish teaching happened in the year 3760. Now, you need to know that. 3760 is when it took place. Now, the Hebrew calendar is different than our calendar. You know that. This is what, 5782? Okay, now who's got a calculator? I want you to look at this and participate with me just a minute. So if you take 5782, that's this year, right now. Now take the creation of man, 3760, and subtract it from 5782, and tell me what the sum is. 2022. Every single year of the Jewish calendar, if you subtract the creation date of man from it, it will always be the year you're in. The two nations are forever connected. Now, it will work on any of them, okay? Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so we'll just take one, let's see here. So this is 5782. Last year was 5781. Subtract 3760 from that. What do you have? 2021. It will always work that very way. Now, Satan is looking at a new timeline. And you have to understand, he knows this. Okay, here's something you may not have known. Okay, Psalm 1. Psalm 1, if you took all the dates from Psalm 150 and you started doing it on Jewish dates, and you went all the way back, Psalm 1 is 5661. That would have been the Hebrew year 5661. Subtract 3760 from that and tell me what you have. Huh? 5661. Subtract 3760 from it. 1901. So 1901 coincides with Psalm 1. 1902 is Psalm 2. 1903 is Psalm 3. 1904 is Psalm 4. 1905 is Psalm 5. 1906 is Psalm 6, and on it goes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's true. And you start going through the Psalms and you find, like when Hitler did what he did, and read the Psalms that coincide with the years. You'd be amazed what you're reading. But there's an end to the Psalms. Satan knows that. And it all lines up. And this is what he's working off of. I just need to hush and well, I don't want to put you to sleep. Okay, now, I want to show you a mystery here that's hidden in the Psalms. Now, I got to show you one, so let's see. Let's do Psalm. Okay, we'll do Psalm 1. We'll just start there. Okay, 5661. Okay? All right, now, add those numbers. 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 1. What is it? Huh? 18? Yes? Yes? I'm talking about adding plus, 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 1. Okay? But see, God's people, you may not know this, but you live in the sum of numbers. God would have never counted past 7 had sin not came in the scene. It would have been 7. That's as far as he would have ever counted. There's no need for it until sin came. Then God added 2 more numbers to it for the church. 8, new beginnings, and 9, power and finality. That's it. Now, all the numbers mean something, but not to you. To you, you always add down to the single digit because you're in the Holy Ghost. So you're not going past 9. I'm alone. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. I was thinking we had warriors in the house that want to know strategies. My kids call this my Jewish math. So you live in the single digits. So if 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 1 equals 18, then you can't live in that, so you have to add 1 plus 8, which is 9. So you put 9 down, and then you look at Psalm 1. So you've got 9, and then it starts over with 1. Go to Psalm 2. 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 2 equals, that's right, 1 plus 9 is, 1 plus 0 is, so you started over in Psalm 2. So Psalm 2 equals 2. So you have 1 in the Hebrew year and 2 for the Psalm. 1, 2. You go to Psalm 3, and what do you have? You have 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 3 equals 20. 2 plus 0 is 2, so you've got 2, but Psalm 3, so you got 2 and 3. So you went 1, 2, 2, 3. So now you go down here to Psalm 4. 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 4 equals 21. 2 plus 1 is 3, and it's Psalm 4, so now it's 3, 4. So now it's 2, 3, 3, 4. It'll keep going all the way through the Psalms this way. You've got Psalm, let's skip over here. We go Psalm 8, you got 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 8. Psalm 8 is the year 5, 6, 6, 8. That equals 25. 2 plus 5 is 7. You got 7, but it's Psalm 8, so it's 7, 8. And it goes all the way to 9 every time and starts over. All the way through the Psalms, all the way through it does this. It never stops. 122. Isn't that right? Sure it is. So we get over here to Psalm 122. You ready? Psalm 122 is the year 5782. That equals 22. 2 plus 2 is 4, but Psalm 122 sums 5. So it's 4, 5. It's always that way. So it's 4, 5. Plus 5 is 9. Power and finality. But 4, 5 should mean something else to you. Oh, come on now. 4, 5 should mean something else. Oh, yeah.